So for those of you who are here, ready to get going, we'll be starting in a few minutes. We're just waiting for the YouTube live stream to get set up. And because we're having a guest all the way from Australia, we've had a little bit of reverb and echo occasionally, but everything is totally audible. So hopefully it won't happen again. I'm not hearing it now. While we're waiting for the go-ahead to begin our webinar, I just wanted to do a couple of housekeeping things for the people who are attending the webinar. During Angela's presentation, you're going to have the opportunity to do an awareness through movement or an integrated movement experience. And so there will be an opportunity if some people would like to volunteer to be on video, to be seen as you're doing the lesson. It really helps people who are watching to have a couple of people. And so if you feel like you'd like to be seen during the awareness through movement lesson, there'll come a point where I will ask people to raise their hands. If you're willing to be seen, make sure that you're ready to be seen, that you actually have video working, and that you are able to move and respond and be seen on camera. It will be a seated lesson, so you'll be able to do it either on the floor or in your chair. And then there will also be time at the end for questions and answers. And Angela welcomes you to either, again, appear on camera and ask your question live, or there's a question and answer button down at the bottom where you could type your question in, and I'll be happy to read it to her. You'll see that there's a chat button there, and that chat is for all of you. You can chat with each other, you can make comments, you can interact, you can offer links or whatever it is that you would like to do amongst yourselves. We'll check it out every once in a while, but Angela and I are going to be focusing on our conversation. And we are live. So I'd like to welcome everybody. My name is Lavinia Plonka, and I'm your host today for the Feldenkrais Awareness Summit. It has been an exciting week so far, and I'm thrilled to present our guest, who actually is the first guest who's officially celebrating Moshe Feldenkrais's birthday, because Angela McMillan is coming to us all the way from Australia, where it's already tomorrow. Angela is a dancer and a Feldenkrais teacher, and she integrates the two to help people move better in their lives. She's also very involved in teaching online classes, and you can get a lot of the information about her in the Summit website. She calls herself a tech nerd and loves to interact on social media, sharing her work, teaching her classes. And she's here today to give us a little bit of perspective on what it's like to be a mover, a shaker, and a Feldenkrais practitioner. So Angela, you've unmuted yourself. Great. So we can get started.
Thank you, Lavina, for that amazing introduction. So I want to invite people to experience themselves on this webinar summit interview. And are you ready for a life-changing experience? The kind of life-changing experience that us practitioners know already. So if you're just being introduced to the modality, I hope that it's not just my summit talk you're listening to, but the other speakers have been amazing. So I'm going to start my presentation, share my screen. Here we go. So my presentation's called Thinking Body, Moving Mind, Building Proprioception, which is what we're doing when we're participating in Feldenkrais, and finding greater freedom through increased connection or integrated movement, as you said in the introduction. I also want to first thank the amazing group of humans organizing this event, yourself, Lavina, Arlene, who's behind the scenes, and many thanks to Cynthia Allen, who is a powerhouse in our community for organizing this event and spearheading it. The second person I'd like to thank is you, the person watching right now, and the people on the replay. You are educating yourself on yourself. What should be coming clearly through watching the other speakers, and something that Moti Naviv said, I've got his name wrong there, sorry, Moti. Feldenkrais is the best method for understanding what you are doing. And Beth Rubenstein likes to say that you're becoming an expert on you. So if you haven't seen their summit interviews, go watch them. They're amazing. And before we begin, let's set our intention as well. I want you to really pay attention and bring awareness into what you are doing, because Feldenkrais can be a metaphor for your whole life. You don't have to just experience ATM on the floor, but how do you take it into your life? So I know what it's like watching webinars and summits. I do it a lot, and you're often, maybe you're scrolling on Facebook, maybe you're doing the dishes, you're doing other things, but just for one moment, let's just take a moment to listen to how you're connected to the ground. Don't change anything, just notice. Are you sitting on the floor like I am? And if you are your legs tucked up? How are they connected to the ground? If you're standing, how are your feet touching the ground? Where is the weight distributed through your feet? Are you in the balls of your feet, the heels of your feet, or are you completely connected throughout your foot? And then just take a breath. How does your breath enter your body? Where does it go when it's inside of your body? And then how does it leave your body? So just by listening in and setting those intentions allows you to be more present in what we're doing here today. So the science behind the method is so interesting to me, and I wish I could be more articulate in that. When you go and watch, if you've watched Daniel Siegel's interview the other day, if you go and watch that, he explains what's actually happening in the Feldenkrais method as you're doing the modality. It's so interesting. And he said Moshe was ahead of his time, and he still is. Now, I think he's quoting another scientist. I did want to go back and tell you who that was, but I didn't get time. And also, the exciting thing is Dr. Norman Deutsch has written about Feldenkrais in his book, The Brain's Way of Healing. And maybe that's how you've come to know about Feldenkrais. So if you haven't watched the interview with Daniel or read the book, go and do that to understand the science behind it. I actually thought that everybody wanted to know how we move, think, sense, and feel. But I've come to realize that not everybody wants to do that. Feldenkrais teachers do, and that's how we come to the method. We want to discover more about ourselves. We each come to the method through a different pathway, whether it's through pain or injury or performance enhancement. But it's really challenging to look at your habits, especially if they've been part of who you are, and that's what you're doing. Through movement, through understanding our movement, it is a way into our thinking, feeling, and sensing. Movement is the easiest one to change. I didn't come to the method through injury. I started this method as a very young dancer. I was fresh from my university dance training, and I just completed 5 years of yoga. I lived and breathed dance excellence. I was training as an athlete of God, to quote my the famous contemporary dance, Martha Graham. Fun fact, her and I actually share the same birthday. Sorry. But I came to the method through, I just completed my dance training, and I was diving into break dance. So if anyone knows the style break dance, you're putting your skeleton upside down and doing these crazy movements. And as a break dancer, you always want to master one of the extreme moves. So I was looking at trying to master the windmill, which is the move where you're rolling around on your shoulders. Here, I've got a little video clip so you can see what I'm talking about. No-handed windmill. Let's have a look. So that's what the windmill is. And you can see by the dancer, you actually have to have momentum to get around. But my Feldenkrais teacher told me, go slow, Angela, because he was watching me flop myself around. I was all bruised up. Yeah, it was quite entertaining at that time. But going slow allows your body to pattern in the movement and understand it in the coordinated fashion, how it can go through your skeleton. There was a number of movements he asked me to do. And by doing those, I actually mastered this windmill move a lot faster than if I just kept flopping myself around on the floor. Usually it takes dancers about 8 months to master this move. Now I teach my students how to do it much quicker as well. But after that, in the last 4 years, I've come to discover that Feldenkrais isn't just for performance enhancement. I mean, I know that it's for pain in the body, but I was actually going through a traumatic life event. As we all do, challenges come up. But having the awareness of how I use myself, I was able to negate this challenging time without falling in a heap. So I've come to realize that Feldenkrais can help you in all aspects of your life. That's just a little bit of my history. So I university, dance training, became a Feldenkrais student, did a Masters of Teaching, and now I've been presenting online for the last few years. So here's a video that some people might know of me if you haven't seen it. 95,000 views on just this one video. This is really showing how, oops, sorry people, go back. I want to press play here. How come it's not letting me play it? There we go. And this is my teacher actually. This was after 4 hours of a rolling workshop we did at the Australian Feldenkrais Centre. As you can see, you need to be really quite well coordinated to be able to perform that. Okay. Oh. So the science behind the method has shown that how we attend to ourselves is paramount in affecting change. Transformation from movement that is uncoordinated, clunky, even hurtful to perform the movement, to elegant, easy, focused, and calm movement. Your mind-body becomes an embodied working piece of art, integrated. And as I just said before, movement is a way into our thinking, feeling, sensing. And movement is the easiest to change. If you want to go more into that concept, Moshe talks about that in his book, Awareness Through Movement, which is a great first book to read if you're just discovering this method. So for dancers, it's fundamental to be integrated and well coordinated. If you want to be the dancer that nobody takes their eyes off, we've all seen those dancers, they're just amazing. And you think, wow, how do they do that? Feldenkrais has a way to teach us how to do that. So if you haven't guessed yet, yes, I'm passionate about dance and even more so about the human body. As I've said here, movement is life is the start of one of Feldenkrais' famous quotes. But I don't have a distinction between dance and movement because all movement can be a dance, a performance at the highest level possible for yourself, not for me or anybody else, but for you. Asking yourself, what is the most efficient, effortless way to move? And that could be while you're doing the dishes, while you're vacuuming, anything. As Moshe said, there shouldn't be any athletes. We should all be athletes. And I like to say, we are all dancers. We all move. By helping yourself move better, you gain greater well-being and zest for life. Becoming well coordinated in all you do is a dance. It doesn't have to be on the stage. And moving slowly with awareness, as I explained how I came to the method, and mastering that breakdance move brings freedom in the range of movement you have available. As dancers, our body is our art. Understanding how our body works, I believe, should be the driving force behind learning what you are doing with yourself, learning to understand how you do what you do. Don't you want to be dancing to your dying days? I've seen many of my colleagues posting videos of them dancing, and it's inspiring to see. And I know it's possible with this method. Just go and search Ruthie Alon and see how she moves, and that she's still teaching shoulder stands by demonstration in her 80s. So again, another famous Moshe quote: if you know what you're doing, you can do what you want. But we are still slaves to our own habits and tension and movement patterns. They're set up in the body over the course of our life, and the impacts that our environment have had on our body. So if dancers are limited in their expression, then their performance is lacking. And so if you do want to be that dancer no one takes their eyes off, you do need to understand what you are doing with yourself. I can see this in many contemporary dance companies. Their choreography and their expression is kind of stuck and restricted by the cultural, what's happening culturally in that particular dance company's world. So if we look at the Israeli companies, they're quite small and contained, and they're not open and expressive. Not everyone can see it. It's a trained eye that can see it, but the average person watching dance can actually see a difference in the dancer that has full expression of their thoracic spine compared to one that is tight and condensed. And I have a question for the audience. I love audience participation, as you guessed when I did our mini ATM. And I have a question which came up with in Scott Forrester's talk. His talk was about the aware athlete, and that it doesn't matter about age. And that's what I truly believe as well as a dancer. It doesn't matter about age. And he was saying that there is a difference between a goal-orientated process or a process-orientated. So what is best, goal or process? I think I've kind of given away what us Feldenkrais people think by stating life is a process. But I'd really like to know from people that are first discovering the method, newbies, and I'm sure my Feldenkrais colleagues would like to know the answer as well, and which is better? Because as Scott talked about, it's a paradox of the high achiever. Focusing on the results, you'll be disappointed. But focusing on the process, you're more likely to achieve what you could. And this is fundamental to performing on stage. We're not often just going for those big, amazing movements, but it's the whole performance on the stage, the quality between each movement. That's what gives the expressive gesture. So again, if you're not completely free in your movement, how can you be completely expressive in how you perform on stage? And again, that's getting clearer on how you can live your dreams. Okay, so again, so dance speaks to us through emotion. Freedom in movement equals expression of emotion. And again, become that dancer that nobody can take their eyes off. So I teach this at high school. These concepts I'm introducing to young minds. I truly believe that educational dance and movement belongs in the curriculum, but it's often left off. But being able to sense and feel our bodies helps us be clearer in our mind. And Daniel Siegel has a great way of explaining that on his talk. Because with dance education, we're using language, we're using movement, we're using writing, we're using video, music, and it's all wrapped up in communication skills. and how we treat each other. And at the moment, with the way the world is going, I really believe that we need to come back to that. We need to come back to that human connection, communication, and dance and movement is a way to do that. So improving the quality of the process, and you can improve life itself. So that's the end of the quote that I'm taking from Moshe. And Jessica Beck, on her summit interview the other day, had a concept that she's been thinking about. If a person, an individual, becomes more integrated and efficient, does that mean that the places that individual works in and the communities that they engage with, does that become more integrated and connected? My own unique understanding of how this movement revolution sits culturally is that human evolution is paramount, and movement can affect change in the individual, not just in movement, but in their communication skills. And so I truly believe that being more aware, becoming more aware, means that the whole world can communicate and be better integrated, as Jessica was suggesting. Okay. Sorry, guys, here we go. So movement is something we are. It's not something we do. And it is the key to greater body awareness. Commitment to understanding self as a dancer brings that freedom in movement, and also resilience. As I explained, going through my traumatic event, I was able to be resilient in traveling through that challenge. Let me just share with you how you can become more of a mastery of your body. So again, I'm encouraging audience participation. I want you to place your hands on one of your ribs on both sides. And what I'd like you to try and experience is, from breathing inside, can you expand just that area of the ribs? So if you start at the bottom, often that's people breathe quite shallow. So can we take that breath into the bottom of our ribs, hanging on there, taking a breath and pushing the hands out in that area. So we're learning to breathe from the inside, learning to move individual ribs. So then you can place your hands maybe a little bit higher on a different part of your ribs. And breathing there. So art is, our bodies is our art, is our instrument as dancers. So just becoming aware of where you're breathing in your ribs allows the body to be more integrated with our breath, which means that it's opening up choices for us and we're getting that freedom of expression. I've got a similar story to what Jessica Beck was talking about. When I began in the method, I had these slumped shoulders. I was quite shy. Even though I was a dancer, I could present on stage, but I had to pull my shoulders back and put more tension here. But through Feldenkrais, my shoulders now sit in a more comfortable alignment, because your shoulders are actually, the skeleton holds the shoulders more comfortably just out to the side, not forward where you put tension in the front, and not back. So that's a very powerful tool for sharing how you can become that expressive person through doing Feldenkrais. And I want to encourage the practitioners watching that this is our most our thinking and our experience are individual for us, and telling our story will help people connect better with the method. So I want to encourage those Feldenkrais practitioners watching to share more of your story. I think I'm running out of time here, going over, aren't I?
It's your show, Angela. It's
okay.
Just do what works for you.
Okay. All right. I just want to talk a little bit about functional integration, which is the hands-on modality, hands-on way of learning in the Feldenkrais method. because when a Feldenkrais practitioner places their hands on you, they're listening in a way that I haven't found in any other modality. And just by listening to what you are doing first and the way that the practitioner listens to your body, an interesting thing happens. Change happens without effort or trying. And the same thing does happen in awareness through movement lesson. If you're listening intently to what you're doing, change will happen without much effort or trying. Because when you listen in that way, the nervous system and the body gets a chance to rest, it feels safe, and that's when new movement patterns can be introduced. But they're not new movement patterns. They're patterns that we once knew, but because of our habits setting in, our bodies have forgotten them. And so that's truly the beauty of this method. So I want to encourage those newbies watching who haven't had a functional integration lesson. I'm asking you to make sure you go to a Feldenkrais practitioner and get one within the next 24 months and tell them I sent you. Because it truly is an experience that you have to experience to understand. So I'm with Moti in saying that using awareness through movement and functional integration and then taking it out into the world. So what you learn on the floor, how can you integrate that into your life? So he does that with martial arts. What better way than dance? Because dance can be expressive and you get to experience all these new possibilities your skeleton has. For dancers, you get that deeper inner knowing about what you're doing. It helps with injury prevention because your nervous system actually learns the best, most efficient way for you to move, and it becomes more resilient in its performance. So as I showed before, connecting to your breath helps you get that efficiency in how you're moving, and therefore your energy levels are going to be greater. So you can perform for longer. So in closing, I want to say, no, usually the statement is dance like no one is watching. But I want to encourage you to dance like everybody is watching, but not just dance, move like everybody is watching. Because even though the eye of the holder might be untrained, people are still making assessments on you and judgments based on the way you carry yourself. So much of what we say is through movement, yet movement is often so overlooked. As dancers, our body is our art and our expression. So we do need to be very careful in how we express, because just a turn of the head in a different way, a position of the shoulder in a different way gives a different expression to the audience. So dance like everyone's watching, because all movement can be as meaningful as a dance. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
I'll stop sharing now.
Great. Wow. There was so much there. I was trying to hold on to words like embodied work of art. You know, the idea that Feldenkrais could change the world. All these different things that you were expressing in there. It was almost like I wanted little word bubbles to pop up so that we could all remember them afterwards. But you know, but as you were speaking, well, I guess the question that comes up for me right at this moment is, how do you differentiate the idea of, you know, dance as if everyone is watching, from the concept of people being self-conscious or of feeling like they have to perform all the time? You know, we talk about people who are on all the time. And how do you differentiate for yourself the notion that it's about people being aware of me and I'm being my presence versus I'm on stage and I'm showing off, or I'm self-conscious about myself because everybody's watching?
Yeah. Well, when you do Feldenkrais and you become more clear on who you are, then innately you become more confident, you become more expressive in who you are because you know who you are. And it doesn't become about if people are watching, it's you becoming more comfortable within yourself. So your movement feels effortless and easy and comfortable. So really not. So it's really not about people watching you, but you becoming more comfortable within your own self.
So it's as if you're watching yourself in a way.
Yeah. And listening intently to yourself.
For some reason, I just lost the audio.
Oh.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My microphone is not working. So can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I can't hear you.
Oh, no. It doesn't sound like it's plugged in.
Did I mute
sounds
myself?
Like you're...
No.
I don't think it's plugged in properly, the headphones.
So I'm having a little bit of a technical issue. Zoom is detecting a problem with my audio. So just give me a moment and hopefully it will. Okay, I think I hear you now. Say something to me.
Hello?
All right, let's see if you can. And can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. I love technology. You start sweating and you're trying to keep calm. And I'm thinking about my shoulders that you just talked about.
Oh, yes.
All right, so we're back online. So the other question that came up for me, because you're at sort of at a peak performance level, and I know that there was a time in my life where I was a performer and peak performance level and would never have thought about wanting to slow down and do awareness. I wish I had known about Feldenkrais when I was breakdancing. It would have made things a lot easier, I'm sure. But now it's interesting to try to convince, all of the acro yoga people and all the dancers, all the people who sort of are in peak physical condition, that Feldenkrais can help them. So as one of those people, how would you speak to that generation, that type of performer, to try to give them a sense of, what Feldenkrais is and how that could help them?
Well, a lot of them don't switch off. And the lessons that I've included for the people that buy the lifetime access are about learning to switch off and rest the body. Because if you can't, there needs to be a balance. There needs to be the switching on and there needs to be the switching off. And the beauty of Feldenkrais is when we're not quite switching off per se, we're actually just listening intently to our nervous system that can then pattern in the movement. Like I talked about with the breakdance move, I was able to allow my nervous system to learn the best way to place my skeleton at that peak level. I remember hearing one practitioner that's been working with a famous tennis player, and the tennis player kept hurting their ankle. And when what they worked out is one certain movement, a backhand or something, they were holding their breath. And how do we know what we're actually doing? How do we truly know unless we listen to ourselves? So for those people that are at that elite level, you can tweak your performance still. I'm still tweaking my performance after 20 years doing Feldenkrais. So still learning. Often I talking about the thoracic, I've done so much work on my thoracic spine, but I catch myself in certain lessons where I'm not moving it because I've had that ballet training and we keep everything straight. And I catch myself doing that. But how do you know what you're doing unless you're listening to how you're doing it?
Right. So we're probably at a point where it would be great to do some movement, don't you think?
Yes,
So if
absolutely.
there are any people of the attendees who would like to be on camera, we would love to have a few people so that when people are watching this in the replay, they have an opportunity to feel like they're participating. So if you could raise your hands, there's a raise hand function for you. And if you just raise your hands, and of course, if everyone's shy today, then I don't think that she's going to make you dance.
No, we're not
Okay.
getting upside down today.
All right. So we have at least one person coming on. So I'm promoting her to panelist. And and here comes someone else being ready to jump up and do that. However, the first one didn't. Okay, Sandra's on, and then we have Arona, and let me just scroll down and see if there's anyone else.
Hello.
So Sandra, you need to turn on your video in order for us to see you. I'm not sure whether you have a camera, a computer or not, but usually there's a video camera down at the bottom, and you have to click on it in order for us to see you. Otherwise, I'm going to put you back into, there you are. Fantastic.
Hey. Hello.
So I think that this is a seated lesson, so you might want to back away from your camera so that we can see you in sitting.
We're sitting with the right leg tucked in the front and the left leg to the side. Let me see if we can.
So side sitting. And if you're in a chair, is there a variation for a chair?
Like this. Yeah. So this is a classic Feldenkrais lesson, referred to as dead bird, or as my student doesn't like that term, so she calls it broken wing, because we hold our hand in front of our, at our face level. It's relaxed, the shoulder is relaxed, the hand's in front, and we place our hand over to the side. Have you done this lesson before, ladies? Give me a, yeah. So we just first turn around to the right and notice how far you go, easily, comfortably. Try not to force anything. Just notice where in your spine you rotate. Because what we do is our habits set up where we rotate. So do you rotate more in your thoracic spine, your lower back, your mid back? And really just listen into where you actually rotate. And so when you know how far you go easily, just come back to the middle. The next time we're going to rotate around to the right, stay there, and then take your head further around to the right. So the hands and the body stays where it is and the head turns further around to the right. And again, notice, where do you turn through your cervical spine, your neck? Do you turn just in your neck, or do you feel it a little bit further down through your spine into your thoracic area? Turning. The next time you find yourself looking at your hand around to the right, stay there. Don't move the head and just move the eyes a few times further to the right. That's it. Just the eyes and back to the middle. And then bring yourself around to the front. Take a moment there before you try again, just turning around to the right and see how far you go easily, comfortably now. Round to the right. And what's moving? Where are you moving? Okay, next one. Coming around to the front, place your hand on your head. And this time we're going to be side bending. So bringing the left shoulder to the left hip joint, the right shoulder to the right hip joint. So we're bending both ways. It's still hard for me as a dance teacher to not do the movement, but we know when we teach ATM, awareness through movement, we're not supposed to show. So, and we just side bend. And what happens inside of your hip joints as you do that? Where do you side bend more? Do you feel that it's evenly distributed throughout your spine, this side bending movement? And just a couple more times. That's it. Okay, give that up. And bring your hand back in front, your broken wing, and take yourself around to the side, to the right side. How far do you go now? Easily, comfortably? Do you find it you turn a little bit more? What's happening in your hip joints? What's happening throughout your spine? We'll do one more variation since most people are on the floor. Are you on a chair, Sandra? That's okay. Place your hands on your knees if you're on a chair. If you're on the floor, place your hands in front, and we're going to curve and then extend the spine. So we're curving and extending. Classic Martha Graham move. Contraction and release within our beautiful awareness through movement lesson. That's it. Contracting and releasing. And what's happening with your pelvis? Can you feel your pelvis tucking under? And then your sit bones coming and pointing backwards. So the movement of the pelvis encourages the movement of the spine. And just a couple more times. That's it. And then bring the hand back into the front, our broken wing, and turning around to the right. Noticing how far you go now. How far do you go easily, comfortably? That's as far as we're going to go with that little movement exploration. Thank you, Sandra and our owner. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you.
So for some reason, people are asking why they're unable to see the participants, and
I noticed that when I was watching the other summit speakers.
Right.
I get to see them, but the people watching now can't. But maybe on the replay, you'll be able to.
It is. You can see it on the replay, but for some reason, and Cynthia and I have been trying to troubleshoot it because when she does it, it works from her, and it's got something to do with the hosting process. But you know,
some people can see them.
Oh, so some people can see it. Yeah, some people can see it and some people can't. So it doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm doing my best here. So hopefully when the people ask their other questions, though, we'll be able to see and hear you ask your questions.
Yeah.
We were able to this afternoon. So if there are people who have some questions that you'd like to ask Angela, this is a perfect time. Again, if you want to write it in the question and answer sequence section down at the bottom of your screen, that's great. And if you want to raise your hand and be seen, this is a good moment. And if you want to think about that for a moment, and maybe while we're letting people compose their questions, Angela, maybe you want to talk a little bit about some of your programs and things that anything you want to share in terms of the work that you do and that you would like us to participate maybe in the future.
Yeah. Well, like other practitioners, I have started a YouTube channel. I'm looking to actually use live video on YouTube and possibly teach full ATMs. Up until now, I've only ever taught short 10-minute lessons but I really don't think that's enough to feel the change that you can experience in a full ATM lesson. I've been wary of doing full ATMs via live stream up until now, but getting my confidence to teach full ATMs. So that will be coming up. I have a Facebook page. I have a Facebook group where I share a lot about the method and the articles that we share in our Feldenkrais community. I share into that group. So if you wanted to be a part of the group, I also have a short video series called Happy Hips. The hip joints are kind of an obsession of mine because as a dancer growing up, we pulled our muscles and a lot of dancers do so much damage in their hips. And then later on in life, even if they've just done a couple of years of dance, they've got problems that come up. So my Happy Hip series is a way to really understand the method and how linking with your nervous system can increase the mobility in your hip joints. So I've got that free little video series.
Okay, we do have a question here, and it's from Arona. So let's see, I'm going to bring her back on.
Okay. Arona, beautiful name.
I think you can, I'll unmute you.
Oh, sorry, here we are.
That's okay, good. All right, we're ready for you.
Hey, Angela, thanks for the lesson and thanks for the talk. You know, I used to combine Feldenkrais and tango, and I found it really challenging to try to seduce tango dancers. And these are really, and tango is a kind of dance that is kind of for fanatics. It changes your life. You move your home, you leave your family, you travel across this, you know, it's like you become a total, we call it the virus, and you get the tango virus. So the point is that these people work really hard at it. And by hard, I mean they're devoted. And so when I say you should try Feldenkrais, I noticed that it totally released the hip joint, etc. But when I try to introduce them to it, and this one fellow pretty much encapsulate the response I get most of the time, which is, you know, I went to a Feldenkrais class. I keep hearing it. It's really interesting. I went to an ATM class, but I just saw, well, it's really for senior citizens, right? So I get that a lot. And then I said, well, I don't look like one yet. Is my best response. Yeah. But I think it's kind of piggybacking on Lavinia's question earlier. Does that resonate? Have you come across that?
Yeah. Jessica Beck brought this up a little bit as well. And she talked about you need to do different ATMs before you're doing a performance because it challenges your self-image of yourself. And if you're challenging your self-image before you're performing a show that you're quite proficient at, that can be detrimental to your performance. And I think with introducing dancers, had I not met my Feldenkrais teacher and been introduced to Feldenkrais through the spectacular awareness through movement lessons, the ones that give you that sense that there's more than just laying on the floor and breathing. So it's really, designing the lesson for who your audience is. And so, just asking them to go to any lesson. If they turn up to a lesson and it's breathing or it's a bell hand and laying on the floor, then they can't really get that skeletal feel like you would if you're doing the judo roll series or some of those other, and really getting them to feel their skeleton. And often that's not in those smaller, intricate movement sequences. So that's how I'd get around that. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. It does. It does. It does as soon as I get them in the door.
Yes.
And I've noticed a very high. the people that are always on, as you put it, you do have to. I found some workaround with those to just inspire them or challenge them even to try the other side, and just drawing attention to dissimilarities is an attention grabber. Just to say, oh, how's it on the left? But just getting them in the doors is probably a more psychological challenge.
Yeah, because what I find is they don't feel that there's enough pain point there. They're not in pain often. Yeah. We're motivated by pain and challenge, and we'll come to the modality because of that. And many people find the modality after they've done everything else. Whereas with dancers, they already believe they move well. They're not in pain, but how can you express to them that actually listening to your body intently will help your performance level? That's where we've got to drive the conversation. And it's challenging. I've been trying now for 4 years to communicate that online. And
thank you. Yeah, it's an ongoing process. Thanks, Angela.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arona, for that question, because it brings up two questions, right? We see the value of this work and how it can support performers, and yet this question of how to get the performers, as she put it, in the door. Because many of us have found that if I go to a class at the university, or if I go to a dance class that's already in existence, and give them an opportunity to do a reference movement like a pirouette or an arabesque or something like that, and then do an awareness through movement lesson for the hip joints or for balance, they always feel the difference. They always feel the improvement, but that doesn't bring them in the door. So, it's what can motivate again, these high level people, if the practitioner is not coming to them. Yeah.
It's a challenge. I try, and hopefully with some of us younger practitioners, we can pave that way a little bit. And be more visible in what we're doing with the modality. So Paul Lee Wu had a great video the other day of pelvic clock, and doing it in many different situations. He was on the table, he was on the bath, he was even on the toilet doing the pelvic clock and singing. So getting more of that out there will hopefully drive more of these performers to the method.
That's interesting. So, this kind of goes back to something that you said earlier. Since no one else is raising their hand, I'll just keep on asking you questions.
Yeah,
I was just double checking there. And that is, you were talking about this idea that as a Feldenkrais, if I do Feldenkrais, how do I affect other people around me? Does that make things better for everyone? Which is a question that I think a lot of the panelists have been bringing up in different ways in their presentation. But for, from the perspective of your work, has the work with Feldenkrais impacted on your artistic ability, on your artistic freedom, on your creativity? Do you feel that awareness through movement or functional integration has in some way opened up something in that world as well?
Absolutely. Because when you truly know yourself and how you move and how you connect with the ground, especially, my teaching of dance helps the dancer move and connect with the ground easier, better. And I can see when the dance is moving up and down from the ground, where they're stuck, where the pattern isn't going through their skeleton the most efficient way. And so then I can say, okay, well, try this and this and this. Now feel the difference. And so being creative in that way, being able to see what's missing in that student, in how they're moving, drawing from the multiple ATMs that I've done over my life to then show them an easier, better way.
So that's from the perspective of being a teacher, right? You're able to actually teach more effectively the art, the craft. Would you call it the art or the craft of dance?
Yes.
Which
absolutely
would it be?
The craft of dance. Absolutely. Yes.
And what about, and this is a question depending on the kind of dance, you were speaking about cultural differences in dance, and that was very interesting for me because I was thinking about different companies that I've watched, but some dance doesn't focus on expression of emotion, and other dance does. Do you feel that your work with Feldenkrais has given you access to different ways of using emotion with your dancers?
Yes, absolutely. Being able to express through here, the upper body, because when you're watching dance, most of the time you are only watching the upper body. So how can we be more expressive in how we present this area of our body? And going back to the cultural differences, I spend a lot of time. My son his father's from Africa, and so I spend a lot of time with those communities and the difference in how they move compared to how a lot of other people move. They're so expressive through their pelvis and their chest, and being able to do that well is interesting.
So you brought up another question. You've mentioned the thoracic area many, many times, and it's interesting when you think about all the things that are contained within the thoracic area. Your lungs, your heart, and all that. Do you feel that Feldenkrais could help dancers sort of free their I guess that's the question I was trying to get to is how do we feel integrated? Because you don't want to be like a floppy emotional mess, but at the same time you don't want to be rigid. So maybe that you could suggest to people, you did this beautiful thing about the breathing and the thoracic spine in the beginning. So I don't know, maybe for finishing, do you have something that you could just think about in terms of how we could feel this opening in the thorax that you've been talking about? Not to put you on the spot or anything, but.
So we talked about the confidence and, feeling from the inside out. There's that study done where if you want more confidence, you stand in that superhero pose.
The power pose, right?
The power pose. But that's mimicking what you think the power pose should be. Okay, here's my power pose. But if you could breathe from the inside and expand the chest from all angles, allow the shoulders to firstly feel the shoulder blade glide across the rib cage to bring the shoulders more into a easier alignment. So place your hands here, and then breathing through the chest and thoracic spine, pushing the spine out. Then you have that more confidence from the inside rather superimposing that on the outside. The interesting part of this thoracic area is it's like a thumbprint, everybody's individual thumbprint. And a lot of what we express of our self-image is from this, how we hold the thoracic area. And so many people don't want to move it because it's challenging their self-image. But often people have shoulder tension and neck tension because of that. So just being able to breathe and move your ribs from the inside out will release that tension and release the expression for the dancer.
Well, thank you for that. I did want to say, and there's a nice comment here, pose is imposed. So I like the way you highlight that it is better gained from the inside, and I couldn't agree more. Just wanted to let people know that there is a Facebook group that is continuing these conversations. I don't know, maybe Angela, you can join with it. And there it is. Arlene just posted it for everyone in the chat room. So if you want to continue this conversation and exploration with Angela after we're finished, the link is right there for you. We encourage you, and maybe some interesting questions and dialogue can come up. And I just want to thank you so much, Angela. It was a delight. It was an absolute delight. And I hope I do get...
Oh, you're frozen. Oh no. Is that me or you? It's her. Oh no. Okay. So we have some technical difficulties. Lavina has frozen. I hope to see you all over in the group after. I think that's what she was going to be wrapping up with. I'm the host now. Okay. Thanks everybody for watching. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks. I think we're going to wrap this up. Thanks. I'm not sure what to do, Arlene. Leave the meeting. Okay.